Hey YouTube, it's Charlie from Reader Turned Writer, and today I am sharing the books that I bought in 2020 and looking back to see if I read them, liked them, DNF'd them. I am literally surrounded by like piles of books here. I think I bought something like 54 books or something in 2020. I'll have to look at my bullet journal, and I managed to read a lot of them, and now I'm just going to share the ones that I bought and tell you whether or not I read them or not. I'll be referencing my bullet journal. That's where I kind of keep track of all of the books that I buy and everything. So in January I bought a ton of books. I actually went way overboard. Book Outlet was having a good sale. I got a bunch of money for Christmas and I just bought way too many books. So I'm gonna start there, and this is gonna be the longest part of the video. And some of these I bought like part of the series in January, and then I bought the rest of the series like another time, like a few months later or something. These aren't in order, but I bought the Spiderwick Chronicle books. I actually bought the first 4 originally, and then I ended up being able to find the 5th one later, and I did read these. I read them as read-alouds with my kids. They were okay. My kids liked them okay. They didn't love them. Definitely not our favorite read-aloud, and honestly they weren't that interesting as an adult. I don't know if I would have liked them more as a child. Yeah, it was okay for me, but not my favorite. I bought Everyone's an Alien and You're an Alien Too. It's like a little graphic novel type book. It's not exactly a graphic novel, but it has like illustrations, and it's kind of just like an uplifting book. It was good, nothing like super memorable, but okay. I bought The Princess and the Fangirl, the sequel to Geekerella. I did read this one. I think I read it in January actually, and it was really cute. I liked it. I think I gave it 4 stars. I bought The Great Unexpected by Sharon Creech, and I bought actually quite a few different Sharon Creech books this year to try, this last year to try, because I like Sharon Creech, and this one was okay. It was kind of like very spiderweb. Everything was connected, but not necessarily in like the coolest way, but it wasn't bad either. Like, I liked it. I also got Never Say Never by Lisa Wingate. I had read a book by her and really liked it, and this one was also pretty fun. It is a Christian book. It has some things in here about like faith in God and different things like that, but it wasn't, I felt like overdone, and it was a pretty good, fun book with a little bit of romance and like some people trying to get away from like a hurricane. I wanted to say tornado, but I knew that wasn't right. I picked up Furthermore kind of on a whim. I saw it for sale on Book Outlet, and I had heard some people talk about it, so I got it. It is very much like a Alice in Wonderland type book. That's kind of the feel I got from it. It was very atmosphere heavy and not as much plot heavy, which is not exactly my kind of book. I didn't hate it, but I also didn't really like it that much. But the cover is beautiful. I also got Every Note Play by Lisa DeNova. You can see I kind of was looking at some different authors that I wanted to read more of their books that I had previously read. I really liked Still Alice by Lisa DeNova. And this one also looks at someone who comes down with like a disease. He's a pianist, and he's like a really famous pianist, and he gets ASL. And this just like looks at his relationships and his life, and it was a pretty touching book. I didn't think I would like it when I first started reading it, but I did. I like Still Alice more, but I feel like if you liked Still Alice, you would probably like this one as well. I'm just kind of grabbing them off the top of the pile. So these are all ones that I got in January. I kind of organized them by month, but they are not organized like into authors or anything. So here's another Sharon Creech book, and I did not read this book. So I have a goal every year to read the books that I buy in January by the end of the year, so that way I'm keeping up on the books that I'm buying on my physical TBR list. But somehow this one slipped through the cracks. I never wrote it down on my physical TBR list in my bullet journal. And I didn't really realize it until I got all the books out that I had bought. So now I can put this on my list and read it by the end of this year. I feel really silly for not having read it, because it's actually like a really short book. I'm guessing it's middle grade. I don't have no clue what it's about. Kind of an interesting cover and name. This was another kind of like spur of the moment buy. It was All the Ever Afters by Danielle Teller, and I've heard of this book. It's Cinderella from the stepmother's perspective, and so when I saw it on Book Outlet, I just bought it. I did actually really enjoy this book, but I do want to give a warning because it is like a fairy tale type book, and the cover makes it, at least for me, it makes it seem like it's going to be like fantasy type book, but it's actually very historical in the feel. Like, it reminded me a lot of some other historical biographical type novels that I have read, and it's very realistic too. There's no magic or anything, so all of the Cinderella story stuff is explained through other means. So I thought it was really good and really interesting. It also focuses a lot on the stepmother's early life, as more of like a YA type feel to it, and it doesn't get to she doesn't even meet Cinderella when Cinderella's a baby until like 50% of the way through the book or more. So just kind of a heads up if you're going to read it, but I did really enjoy it. I thought it was well done. Then I got Across a Star-Swept Sea, and I was kind of disappointed because it is a proof copy. I was not expecting that when I bought this. I did read For Darkness Shows the Stars and really liked it, and I actually liked Across a Star-Swept Sea even more. It's a Scarlet Pimpernel retelling where the Scarlet Pimpernel is a girl, and I thought it was so clever, so well done. I thoroughly enjoyed the whole story, and I want to buy a copy that's not a proof copy eventually. I also bought I Capture the Castle. This is one that my sister-in-law read a few years ago, and it's been on my radar ever since because she really enjoyed the book. And when I bought it, I did not know what it was about. I thought it was like a fantasy book because of the castle and like the cover and stuff, but it's actually more of like a family drama set in, I don't know, like 1900s. I'm not exactly sure when it was set. There's something in. Anyway, I did enjoy it. I actually enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to when I realized the difference in what I thought it was, and I thought it was a really fun and engaging read. Then I picked up some more books by one of my favorite authors, Jessica Day George. I picked up this one, which is Thursdays with the Crown. It's the third in a series, and I did actually end up reading the whole series last year, and I enjoyed the first book a lot, Tuesdays at the Castle, and I would highly recommend that one. The rest of the series, though, was just okay for me. I didn't absolutely love it. I don't know, her writing style sometimes really works for me. Like in some of her more fairy tale type books, for some reason her writing style works for me, but in these ones it's like the dialogue and the reactions were driving me crazy by the end of the series. So I don't know. I really enjoyed the first one though. I thought it was really fun, and I definitely think that if I had read all of her books when I was like 13 or 16 even, I would have liked them a lot more. I think I'm a little bit more picky now, so I'm definitely going to hold on to these for my own daughters and maybe even read them with my daughters or have my daughters read them, but I think they'll enjoy them. The other two were so I bought, well, I can't figure out which one comes first, but whichever one is the second book, I bought it on Book Outlet, and then I got the first one from the library and read it, and then I read the second book, and then I think this is the third book. And I can't remember which one is the third book and the second, and looking inside them did not help me at all. So then the third book I actually got later. It was a new release in 2020, and I just decided to buy it off of Amazon because it wasn't, just to finish off the series. And so yeah, I bought these two. One of them I bought in January, one of them I bought a little bit later just to have it so I could read it. And this series is actually probably my least favorite of hers so far that I have read. It's like a fantasy where the horses have like different magical elements to them. I'm just not a horse person. I think that's part of it. The first book was okay for me. The second two was kind of a chore to get through, but they're short, so I got through them anyway. I got Marilla of Green Gables from Santa, and I count all of my Christmas presents for the next year because I kind of have already wrapped up my bullet journal for the previous year, so I count this for 2020. And I did read it, and I did enjoy it. This is a look at Marilla when she was like a teenager, like a YA look at Marilla before Anne comes and she's old and everything. And it was pretty good. It just, like, if it hadn't been like, oh, it's Marilla, I would have actually really liked it, I think. But because I was expecting it to be Marilla, I just didn't. There were some things in it that just didn't match up with her character for me from Anne of Green Gables. But it was still good. Yeah. This one I bought by Sarah Miller. I bought a couple books by her. In fact, where's my other one? There's another one by her that I bought that I hadn't read yet, and I'm not sure where it is. But this one is basically it's Little House on the Prairie, but from the perspective of Caroline, and I absolutely loved it. It was one of my favorite of the year. I bawled. I really connected with it as like mother to mother. I felt like as a mother, it felt so relatable to me. I also bought Miss Spitfire by Sarah Miller, and I'm not sure where it is, but I bought it the same month that I bought that one. It's like the story of Helen Keller, but from the perspective of Anne Sullivan. I've always liked Helen Keller, and I really enjoyed it. And then I also bought Arch Enemies by Marissa Meyer, and this is the second in the trilogy, the Renegades trilogy, so I got the first and the third on audiobook from my library, and then I read Arch Enemies as well, and I really enjoyed the series. The first book was my favorite, but I did think the series was good overall. I had 2 books that I bought in January that I had DNF'd, and I no longer have them, and that was Uncommon Type, and that's the short story collection by Tom Hanks, and I just couldn't really get into it, so I stopped at 50%. I was kind of bored with the stories. There were some sexual things in them, like references or even explicit, that kind of bothered me, and so I was just like, I'm just gonna stop. I'm not interested in this. And then the other one was The Undercover Princess, and I'm not sure who that's by, but I'll put it right here so you can see. This is actually, I think, by a booktuber, and so it got pretty popular on BookTube. I honestly just got really bored with it, and reading the reviews, it didn't seem to get much better, so I decided to DNF it. Just really quickly, I'll show you some of the books that I bought that I had already read, because I love to collect books that I enjoyed that I want to have in like my home library. The Crown by Sarah Miller. This is the first Sarah Miller book that I read, and that's why I bought the other ones. My View from Saturday by E.L. Conisberg. I have liked both the books I've read. I bought Holes, which I loved from my childhood, and I reread it, and then I actually bought Small Steps, which I hadn't read, and I read it this last year, and I loved it. It's way different from Holes, but I absolutely loved it, even more than Holes. It's called Small Steps, and I actually, oh, that's Holes. I actually really liked this cover, Small Steps. I thought the covers were kind of cool and unique. Love Life and the List by Casey West. I really like Casey West. She has cute romances that are clean. At least all of the ones I've read by her have been really clean and not sexual. The Last Apprentice by Joseph Delaney, and this is one I read when I was a child. I've only ever read the first book, so I got it so I can reread it and then finish the rest of the series eventually. Because You Love to Hate Me, and this is a collection of short stories by different various authors, and I remember really liking some of the stories in it. So, Daughter of a Siren Queen. I have found that a lot of times that book outlet will have the middle book or the sequel and not the first book, which is true of this one. I don't have Daughter of a Pirate King, but I do have Daughter of a Siren Queen, and someday I'll buy Daughter of a Pirate King too, but I got this one really cheap. So the other E.L. Conisberg book that I've read that I really enjoyed, From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler. I think it's cute. The Good Girls and the Perfectionists by Sarah Shepard. I am not a fan of Pretty Little Liars, but I loved The Perfectionists and The Good Girls. I thought they were super, super fun. Super fun YA thrillers. Some of these I bought in February and stuff to try and finish, and I don't have quite all of them yet. I think I'm only missing Farmer Boy. I think there's only 7. But I bought the Little House on the Prairie series. I used to have this when I was a child, but my husband and I, when we were moving a lot, we got rid of a lot of our soft cover books, and these were some of the ones that we probably got rid of because I knew I wanted to have hardcovers, and this was before I did BookTube or anything. Now I'm kind of wishing I had kept them because I like want to go back and reread them or like take pictures of them and stuff, and I don't have them. So I've been trying to collect some of those again in hardcover. So okay, so those I think are all the books that I bought in January, but I did buy a buttload of books. So now I'll move on to my other months. There's definitely a lot less in the other months. Oh, I also bought a book called People Like Us in January, and it was a YA thriller. I read it in February, didn't like it, got rid of it. So yeah, I DNF'd it. I did read the whole thing, but then I unhauled it. So in February, I bought some more of the Little House books. I also bought Batman, The Long Halloween. It's a DC comic book collection or something. I read the first one in this series and liked it, and my brother highly recommended this one, and my library didn't have it, so I just bought it, and I bought it softcover because holy cow, comic books are so ridiculously expensive. I also bought a couple of Jane Austen books, and I'm just going to show you all the ones that I got this year because they are all matching. I really like this like fake leather type covers for books. I think they feel really nice, and they usually have really pretty covers on them. My favorite is probably Sense and Sensibilities. But yeah, I think I got Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility this month, and then another month I bought the other two. So yeah, and I obviously do not have a full collection yet of Jane Austen's books, but hopefully I can find more that match this so I can have a matching set. Okay, moving on to March. So in March I bought a couple books for middle grade March, books that I wanted to read for middle grade March that my library didn't have. And so I bought Murder is Bad Manners, but this one is also has a different title, sometimes Murder Most Unladylike. And I thought it was cute. I think I gave it 5 stars, and I definitely want to read more in the series because it is a series. It's basically like she has, it's a middle grade book obviously, and she has like a friend who she sees as kind of the Sherlock Holmes, and her friend has some personality similarities to Sherlock Holmes, and she sees herself as like the Watson. And it's a fun little murder mystery that takes place at their boarding school for girls, you know. I also bought the Book of Boy. This was like the group pick for that everybody was reading, and I thought it was pretty good. It was not my absolute favorite middle grade book, but it was okay. It had kind of some weird twists in it that I was not expecting, because it's like a historical book about a boy who has a hump back, and then it kind of went like, it just had some like supernatural elements in it that I was not expecting, and I'm still not exactly sure how I feel about it. So this, you can see I got it from Thrift Books. It used to be a library cover, but it's Juniper Berry, and it was kind of like a creepy vibes middle grade book, and I thought it was pretty well done. I don't read a lot of horror books. I don't know if this classifies as middle grade horror, but it was creepy. So I only bought middle grade books in March, and then in April I didn't buy any books. I don't remember why. So for Christmas, my brother and sister-in-law bought us the first 2 Harry Potter illustrated editions. And then for my birthday, my husband bought me the 3rd one, which I guess technically count in this wrap-up. So then in May, I decided I got some money. Whoops, I dropped my bullet journal. In May, I got some money, and I decided to go ahead and buy Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire illustrated edition brand new. And I really love the illustrated editions. I can't wait for the next ones to come out and finish off the series. In May, I also bought A Ceiling Made of Eggshells by Gail Carson Levine, and I loved this book. I gave it 5 stars. I actually gave it away to someone for Christmas, so I have to buy another copy. That's why I don't currently have it to show you. But it was definitely different than what she normally writes, but the writing style was so similar, and I love her writing style. I thought it fit really well with this story. It's a historical fiction, middle grade, following like a Jewish girl. I'm not sure if it was the 1700s or 1800s, but back when, during like just when times were really hard. I mean, times are almost always hard for Jewish people, right? But it was just a really interesting read. I learned a lot. I love the writing style. I love the main character. And if you like historical fiction and you like Gail Carson Levine's writing style, I would highly recommend it. I know some reviews felt like it was slow moving, but I never felt that. I was interested the whole time and just really liked it. But I also just love the way that Gail Carson Levine writes stories. So in June, I bought one book that I really wanted to read, which was Snape, A Definitive Reading, and my library didn't have it, so I went and bought it. And I don't think they have it in hardcover, or I probably would have bought it in hardcover, but it's like kind of an analytical look at Snape's character throughout the different Harry Potter books, and I thought it was so well done. Very well thought out. There were some leaps in there that I was like, I don't know about that, but it made me, I'm never going to be able to read the Harry Potter books the same again, and I just thought it was very insightful. And then I also bought The Match by Sarah Adams, and I had read the ebook of this the month before, and I just had a little bit of extra money, so I decided to buy the hard copy. She doesn't have hardcovers, I don't think, for her books. She's self-published, I believe, and I found her through Instagram, and I love her books. I also read The Enemy in December, and I haven't bought that one yet, but I definitely want to buy it and add it to my library because I liked it even more than The Match. These are adult rom-coms, and they're just funny and cheesy and cute, and the perfect read for when you just want something light and fun to read. So I highly recommend The Match and The Enemy by Sarah Adams. In July, I bought quite a few books again. I'm not sure if I just got some money. I think I maybe got some money from like selling stuff or something. I'm not exactly sure, but I went on to probably Thrift Books or Book Outlet and I bought The Wrath of Mulgrath, and then I bought Pretty Little Liars. I had owned some of the books later in the series because there's like 17 books in the series or something, and I had found them at a thrift bookstore, and I like some of her other books, so I bought those ones while I had the chance. But then, so I bought the first book and tried it and I didn't like it. I thought it was just kind of shallow, and it had also like quite a bit of sexual reference stuff in it that kind of bothered me. So I decided to just unhaul the whole, all of the books that I had in the series. I didn't have all of them. I think I had 5, including the one that I bought, maybe 6. And so I read Pretty Little Liars, the first one, didn't like it, unhauled it with the rest of the series. I also bought Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator. My children and I had read Charlie and the Chocolate Factory earlier in the year and they had loved it, and we watched the movies and everything, so I decided to get this one for us to try, and we were super disappointed and we didn't actually finish it. I do want to read it eventually because I want to read all of Roald Dahl's stuff, but yeah, I can see why it's like not a movie and not as popular as Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and stuff, because it's kind of boring. It's like they end up in space and like all this stuff that like my kids had no clue what was going on. I think they were like, because like the person in charge of like space travel, what do you call that? I don't know. They were like in the book a lot, and I was just like, this is not good for like a 6-year-old to read. But I do want to read it eventually, so I didn't unhaul it. And I probably will keep it in our collection because it is a classic. I don't know, do you keep classics in your home library if you don't like them? I would love to hear the answer to that in the comments. So far I do, as long as there's nothing inappropriate in them. This is the month that I also bought the other Jane Austen books, and I got a couple other classics. I got the Arabian Nights in the same like kind of fake leather, and I thought that this cover was just gorgeous. I love this cover. This is a book that I haven't read yet. I do really want to read it, and I plan on reading it this year. And I also bought this beautiful illustrated copy edition of The Wind in the Willows, and I'm really excited because I'm planning on reading this with my kids this year, and I think having this beautiful illustrated copy will help them to understand the story better and just get them more interested in the book. And then I bought the Penderworks at last, which I had already read, but I've been trying to finish off my Penderworks collection, and so when I saw that it was on Thrift Books, I decided to grab it. And I also bought If You Don't Know the Words, which is one that I had wanted to read in 2020, so and I did read it, and I absolutely loved it. Highly recommend it. And then in August, I did get some money from, I think it was from selling stuff, I don't remember, but I had like $35 or so, maybe $50, I don't remember. And I remember going to Book Outlet and like filling up my cart with like novels and stuff, and I just wasn't excited about them. So I ditched that and I went to Amazon and I found 5 different books on like writing craft that I wanted to buy. I bought Story Genius by Lisa Cron, and I did read this and I did not love it. I think it has really good information in it, and I think that the hype, I can see why people love it so much and why it could change the way that you write, but there just wasn't a lot of new information in for me, and her tone kind of ruined the book for me. You can check out my more in-depth review if you want of this book. And I also bought Wired for Story at the same time by Lisa Cron. I wish I had bought a different one because now I'm not sure I want to read it since I didn't like her writing style, but maybe I'll give it a try still. And I bought Art and Fear, and this is like a book for creatives, just kind of like exploring the idea of creativity, and it's very philosophical, but it's short, and I thought it was a really fun read, really made me think a lot. And then I also got The Magic Words, and this is the one that I haven't read yet, and it's by Cheryl B. Klein, and I'm excited to actually read it probably in January. I don't know when I'm going to upload this, hopefully soon. Depends on when I can get around to editing. And then the other one that I bought I don't actually have anymore. I unhauled it and DNF'd it, and it was The Artful Edit, and it was really boring and I didn't get anything out of it like 30% of the way through, so I decided to just quit while I was ahead and DNF it. In September, I bought 2 books that I wanted to have for my channel. I did a review of Hope in the Mail by Wendelin Van Draanen. I loved this book. So when I bought it, I had already read it, and then I did the review with this book, and you can check that out if you would like. And yeah, it's just like her story of her journey with writing and some life lessons and different things, and it was just amazing. If you like to write or want to be a writer, I highly recommend this book. And then I also bought Heartless by Marissa Meyer. This is another one that I had read earlier in the year, and I wanted to do a review of it. I don't think I ever actually, I like wrote out the outline for a review, but I never actually did the review of it. I was planning on doing, like, looking at negative character arcs and then doing a review of this, but then I decided not to do that yet because I am kind of trying to go a little bit easier on my channel, so that, because I just don't have as much time to put towards it that I would want to right now. So maybe someday I will reread this and do a review on the negative character arc and talk about negative character arcs. But I now have Heartless by Marissa Meyer, which is fun because I do like Marissa Meyer, and this one was pretty fun. I definitely liked Lunar Chronicles more, but I still enjoyed this one. In October, I bought Mastering Suspense, Structure, and Plot by J.K. Cleland because I really wanted to read this as my next writing craft book, and I did read it and I liked it, and I left my review up here. It was like okay, and I got some stuff out of it, and so yeah, if you are interested in suspense, then it's one that I would recommend, though I would check out my review because I talk more about some of the cons of this book in that review. And then I also bought 2 books for my daughter's, my 6-year-old's birthday, Mrs. Piggle and The Princess in Black. And we've read both of these as read-alouds already, and they both were big hits and the kids really liked them, and they were both 5-star reads for me, especially The Princess in Black. We're reading the whole series now and my kids absolutely love it. And then in November, I bought The Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson, and it was his big release this year for the Cosmere and the Stormlight, and yeah, I had pre-ordered it, so it came in the mail so I could read it, and it was really good. And if you haven't read the Stormlight archive, well, if you haven't read anything by Brandon Sanderson, you should definitely read something by him. This series can be intimidating, but it is definitely worth it. But if you're intimidated by it, I would definitely try some of his other books first because I think they're also really good. And then in December, I didn't buy any books because Christmas, all of our budget went to Christmas stuff, and I tend not to buy as many books in November and December because of that. But I did get some books for Christmas, and I will share that with you in my Christmas birthday haul soon. I'm just waiting for some books to come from Book Outlet and Thrift Books still. So yeah, you can look out for that video hopefully soon. And yeah, let me know what books you bought in 2020 or that you've bought recently and how you like them in the comments below. If you like this video, don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe for lots of writing and reading bookish content. And thank you so much for watching my video. I will see you in the next one.